Before we begin, I'd like to review the ground rules for our conversation together this evening, for the forum this evening. We will begin with each candidate providing a 3-minute opening statement. We will begin alphabetically, so Mr. Brotherton will start, followed by Mr. Cooke. Following the opening statements, you all will have an opportunity to ask questions, and you can submit your questions in 3 ways. You can come to the microphone that's in the center of the back of the room. You can raise your hand and someone will bring you a microphone, or you can write your question on a card. Again, on the refreshment table, there are cards and pens back there. You can... Debbie will show us where the cards and pens are. And you can feel free to bring me those cards or to hand them to, let's say, Debbie. And she will, thanks for standing up. And she can bring them over to me. I do ask that if you are going to verbalize your question, that you do use a microphone, because this will be available to other folks to review later by virtue of the recordings that we're doing. And so we would be very grateful if you make sure that everything that everyone says today is said into a microphone. That would be very helpful. Before you do ask your questions, there are some things for you to consider. You only get one question on one topic, so please choose carefully. There won't be any follow-up questions allowed. So if you want to ask for more information on the topic that you bring up, you will need to wait until everyone has a chance to ask their questions. And each question should be asked in a way that both of these candidates can answer them. Please keep in mind that we're here to hear the views of the candidates, not the views of each other necessarily. So with that in mind, please keep your questions brief and avoid making long statements of personal opinion. That is the job of the candidates this evening. And after each question is asked, each of you will have 2 minutes to answer the question. Our timekeeper here, Jackie, will let us know where we are on time. She'll hold up a yellow card when you have 1 minute left and a red card when your time is up. We will rotate who gets to go first on answering so that no candidate has the unfair advantage of considering their answer longer than the other candidate would have. To both of the candidates, I'd like for you to answer the questions to the audience, not to each other. This is to answer their questions, and so please direct your answers to them and not to each other. And finally, and this is really important, we're so lucky and blessed to be part of this democracy. We're here tonight to educate ourselves through a thoughtful and respectful exchange of ideas and viewpoints, and we want everyone to feel safe. We want the audience to feel safe asking questions. We want the candidates to feel safe sharing what could potentially be divergent viewpoints at times. So if you could refrain from audible cheers, hurrahs, boos, hisses, and other kinds of indicators of your personal feelings of what is happening while it's happening, I think it would allow for a greater and deeper exchange of ideas here. And I would be very grateful if all of us could do that. So any questions about the ground rules or the process? I'm sorry, we'll end with, again, a 3-minute closing statement. Because Mr. Brotherton is going to begin, Mr. Cooke will have the opportunity to do the first closing statement at the end. Any questions? We're all on board? Okay, let's begin. Again, it's alphabetical and opening, so Mr. Brotherton, I'll ask for your opening statement, please.
Thanks a lot for having me out today, for all of us out. Thanks to the League of Women Voters and to AAUW. This is great. I really enjoy these forums. My name is Greg Brotherton. I'm running for County Commissioner. I'm hoping to earn your vote today. I'm a little bit about myself. I moved to Quilcene in 2011 with my family to help reopen the Quilcene Village store. It was the last gas station in town. Kind of felt like a death knell to the town when it closed down. I spent 3 years managing that store before passing management off to my brother and went up to Discovery Bay, where I opened 3 more stores. Outdoors, another Village Store, the Disco Bay Detour, and Sea Change Cannabis. We have another renter there as well as we purchased the property and continue to develop it. While I was doing that, I also served 4 years on the Quilcene School Board, elected for the 2013 to 17. And while on the school board, I learned a lot of lessons that I think really translate to the role of county commissioner. And I want to use those skills to kind of work on the things that I identified both as a small business owner and as a home builder. I built a house and a farm with my family on Lake Leland in 2011. And I'm going around right now and studying all the different departments. I've met with nearly all the electeds and most of the appointeds, and I'm starting to see some of the efficiencies. The time on the school board really gave me a lot of insight into the way that policies are formed, the way these bureaucracies function. And I'm looking at things that, just like contracts and streamlining the systems in the county that I think we can really increase our efficiency. And I really want to work on the codes. I'm meeting with Patty Charnas, the head of the DCD, tomorrow. And I really want to learn how we can make it easier and work to find how we can make it easier to build houses and small businesses in Jefferson County. And that's the focus. We need to work on our infrastructure problems that are so big. The Hadlock sewer, affordable housing is a huge issue, and I think we can do that. But while we're doing that, we can make it easier to build and encourage smaller alternatives. I've been advocating the Board of Health already about low water septic alternatives, and I think we can take that even farther in our exploration of making the county work the same for everybody. Regardless of your income, we should be able to scratch out a living. And I think there's a lot of creative plans that we can come up with. Not necessarily, breaking the bank, but, like using the defunct county park that's adjacent to the Tri-Area Community Center, and we can, work with the Peninsula Housing Authority maybe to build a couple small houses there and get people out of homelessness and into real housing. I think that's one of the most critical issues that we have around here. I really want to focus on rural broadband throughout the county as well. It's just a critical service, and I think that while the commissioner doesn't have a lot of direct influence over it, we can work with our legislators. We can sow the seeds for wireless internet service providers and other small entrepreneurs to pursue it. I find it encouraging that the county itself right now is transitioning from, I believe, CenturyLink to a small wireless provider. I think that these small businesses have a lot of capability for decentralizing our infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Cook.
Hi, thank you for having me today. My name is Jon Cooke, and I'm running for Commissioner in District 3. District 3 is really different than District 1. There are a lot of people out there that don't connect with the other two districts. And so it kind of makes a divide there. We need to help those people. There are some real issues out there. Last year, free and reduced lunch at the Brandon School District was at 90%, just below 90%. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. 50% is bad. I had I'm a substitute teacher, and a fellow substitute teacher who works in the Brandon School District told me he had a class of 12 one day. Two of them, one of their parents was in prison. 3 of them, one of their parents was in the county jail. 4 of them, 4 other ones were single parent homes. Out of the 12 students, 3 had a mom and dad in their home. That's not good. They need help out there. District 3 is struggling. And talking to the people in District 3, you go over Walker Mountain from Quilcene, you will go into Brennan. Talking to them, they don't feel served at all. So this idea of we will all combine and do what's best for the other districts isn't happening. We need some help out there. And I am a proponent of one who will bring some help out there. The Brennan Parks and Rec was ready to fold up shop. And a lady came in and got it working again. She applied for the LTAC, Lodging and Tax lodging tax thing for $10,000. She was turned away. That's what the people in Brennan feel like. Because the rest of the people who had applied before, they got their wish. Well, it was cut down, but that's what Brennan feels like, being left behind. I will represent the people of the 3rd District. Thank you.
Now we will take questions from the audience. A reminder to please go to the microphone in the back of the room if you would like to ask a question, or submit it to me in writing. Your question.
Yep. Good evening. My name is Cindy Jane, and I'm with Jefferson County Move to Amend. In 2012, the Jefferson County Board of County Commissioners was the first county in Washington to pass a resolution for a constitutional amendment to establish that constitutional rights apply to natural persons only and not to corporations, and that campaign contributions are not speech and must be regulated. It would reverse Supreme Court decisions like Citizens United and control the growing power of corporations over the rights of people. Other cities and counties in Washington ended up passing similar resolutions and went on to become Initiative 735, which was passed overwhelmingly by the Washington voters in 2016. My question is, if elected, are you committed to supporting the movement for a constitutional amendment to end corporate personhood and money as speech?
As long as we are corporations and nonprofits the same, that unions, other nonprofits, they can't contribute either. Take it to a personal, people can give only. I'm fine with that. Last night, Mr. Chapman said he wanted 25 or 26,000 for each candidate. My problem with that is I don't want to pay for his. We have an easy route, the PDC, Public Disclosure Committee, where you have to list your donors and list that amount. You set a limit there. For state of Washington, you set a limit there, 25,000. They can take donations up to that point. But where it extends out, I just have a problem taking people's First Amendment rights if I own a business. So that is my answer.
Mr. Brotherton.
Thanks for the question, Cindy. Yeah, I 100% agree with your movement. I've signed the endorsement already for the Move to Amend organization, and I fully support. I do have a couple corporations, and I still get to vote. They shouldn't get to vote. So I'm with you 100%. Thanks.
This is somewhat on the same topic, and I would like some clarification. I-1634 concerning taxation of groceries is on the ballot because Coke, Pepsi, and Dr. Pepper have contributed $20 million. They wrote it, they paid signature gatherers, it's on the ballot. They're spending $20 million in this election to see it passed. We've all seen the slick advertisements in our mailboxes. Healthy Kids for Washington raised, I think they might be up to $16,000 now, and they don't have a chance in this kind of money race against corporations. But Healthy Kids for Washington, you could be seen as a nonprofit or whatever. So I'm wondering, Mr. Cooke, your party favors passage of I-1634 sponsored by the soda pop companies. And I'm not sure what your position is, Mr. Brotherton. Could you speak to your position and how you square that with your views on corporate money in politics?
Yeah, I'm opposed to 1634. You know, I mean, of course, it's a response to the sugary drink tax in Seattle, and I can understand why they're fighting it. I think it is, you know, it kind of proves Move On's point a little bit, that it is such deep pockets to pursue this policy that I think is bad for the health of Washingtonians. I think that, yeah, I'm 100% behind 1634, and I believe that we should, you know, give people a voice, not the corporations. Thanks.
Mr. Cooke.
When I look at these measures, I look at who does it affect? Who's going to be the one paying for this? Studies have shown that the people affected will be the low-income people. They tend to drink those types of drinks. I am against I'm for 1634. I do believe that whether it's corporations or not, we should, if you want to exclude the corporations, we should exclude the corporations, but not vote in initiatives before that happens, just because it's supported by this person or that person. So I am in support. I don't think we need taxes on drinks. I don't think we need taxes on straws. I don't think we need taxes that hurt our people.
I'm Richard Talbot. Commercial development needs sewer systems, and there's a sewer system has been designed for the Hadlock area. The engineering has been done. The question is, does the District 3 also need similar sorts of sewer facilities? Whether it's Hadlock or further south, how do you feel those facilities should be paid for? Because right now, Hadlock is sitting in limbo.
Part of it can be paid for by a lid. I think that given information about the Hadlock sewer, how that would affect the rest of the county, would be a proposal maybe to have a tax on everybody, a small one, to cover that difference. But the lid's not going to cover everything, but it would be nice to have, that sewer there. Our economy is depending on that sewer. That's the stranglehold. If people understand that, I think they would be willing to help pitch in, even though it's not affecting their personal area. But another way is grants, and obviously we'd be going for state grants and federal grants to help our infrastructure. Right now, the infrastructure fund, half of it goes into the sewer system, but that's definitely not gonna pay for it.
Mr. Brotherton.
Thank you. Thanks for the question, Richard. A sewer infrastructure is a critical need for the county, and we're working on it. I met with Monty, the Director of Public Works, the other day, and according to him, they had built the best sewer system plan that they could when they initially built it. At $31 million, that money just not appeared, right? So now they're building the cheapest system that we can get, and so they're looking at pressurized versus gravity systems that are going to cost less to initially put in, probably cost more in the long term. And we need to keep pursuing state and federal money for that. I was really proud of Commissioner Dean go off to DC last week to pursue just that very thing. So we need more energy like that. We're not going to be able to do it with a lid alone. We are absolutely going to need state and federal money. Brennan has a sewer system that's in the state park that I think that there is already a lid being formed to try to bring those facilities over to the commercial center of Brennan, and I think that's a real strong idea. I would support that with anything I can do to help. Sewers aren't an automatic economic driver, though. If you look at Port Orchard and the sewer system that they put in there, it is killing them. They got a $15 million grant, and it is still bankrupting the county because there's not enough people utilizing it. So we need to be careful about these big investments, but we absolutely need to make them. Quilcene, I've advocated in the Board of Health, as I said, for low water septic alternatives. We can decentralize as we're building our infrastructure, and I think that's a course that is going to lead to the most successes. But we can find a way. We will get the Hadlock sewer done. That's where we need to put our subsidized housing, multifamily housing. That's been designated as the urban growth area that we need to work on, and that's just where we have to do it first. So that's where I would focus funds that we have countywide in Hadlock. But we do want to explore the existing possibilities in Brennan as well. Thanks for the question, Richard.
When candidates run against each other, it's all our responsibility to understand how each of you look at things. And that's important, and that's our responsibility. It's also important to know how each of you think about the other candidate. In fact, you may say that each of you is an expert on the other one more than any of us can be. So, what do each of you think about the ideas of the other?
Well, that's a tough question to answer, of course. We've been kind of doing parallel play for 6 months here. I'm not sure what Jon Cooke's ideas are. I mean, he's got, we all want the Hadlock sewer. I'm usually not at a loss for words. I think that, economic growth is good. We agree on that. We agree on a lot of the things that we need to do as a county. Methods to achieve that, I think we disagree. Routes to find economic success, I feel like I see a path. I don't see his path, but maybe I don't understand his vision fully. I think I complimented him in the newspaper today because we've kept a clean campaign. I heard the other day he's been attacking candidates about me, and I think that lowers the bar, and I hope that we can keep talking about the issues today, I guess. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Cooke.
Well, I do see a different pattern for things getting done. Greg wants small businesses, small business startups that would be his main focus. My issue is not everybody's an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to start that business. There are people who need jobs, and we need medium-sized and a few more large-sized businesses that employ people, that have living wage jobs. So that would be the main difference I would see, is that he wants to continue on with how the county's been running, focusing on those small businesses, and I think we need to grow out and have a diversity of business sizes and business types.
Good evening. I appreciated Mr. Cooke's comments about the situation in Brennan, and I agree. And I'd like to ask you both to share your vision of what kinds of services the county could realistically offer to citizens in the rural district that would assist families, assist children in poverty, and what steps would you take to give those services to them if elected?
Thank you, Ruth. You go to the food banks at both of them, and you see an enormous amount of people there. We could help support those food banks. There is also, if we could get funding for other entities that will help them. Children, I'm an advocate, I'm an educator, I'm an advocate for children. Also, if in the Brennan School District, we have a rundown Thousand Trails park that hopefully soon will be a master plan resort, multi-million-dollar, that's going to infuse big money into their school district. I'm on the Parks and Rec Board, who mainly it was cooperation with Jefferson Health, who has an after-school program for now Quilcene and Brennan. It's things like that that can help the quality of life for those kids. They can't help their parents getting a divorce, but we can step in there and help these kids. 4-H programs, FFA programs, there's all sorts of programs that we could help establish and encourage in District 3.
Mr. Brotherton.
Thanks for the question, Ruth. It's an important question, and I guess I'm going to take it from the school tax, since I was on the school board, and we had a lot of similar issues at Quilcene with a very high free and reduced lunch percentage. And I think you do a couple things. You know, the job of the school is to provide a safe place for learning. And one of the additional needs that a lot of these kids need is nutrition, and that's what the free and reduced lunch does. And I advocated when I was the school board, and we successfully really strengthened the school garden program and got the garden coordinator hired for now 3 years going. And that food that they're creating, they're learning how to grow food, seeing their friends eat it in the cafeteria, and that food also goes to the food bank. So I think school garden programs are great. We updated the playground as well. Outdoor experiences are huge. You know, you want to make a safe space for the kids. And the Washington State University Extension Program and 4-H has been huge at Quilcene, and they've done really great jobs with the after-school program and giving summer programs through the day with free lunches. And now this year there's funding, so the extension, and it is a county government partnership. So, you know, the extension director reports to Philip Morley at the county. And so they're starting programs after school at Brennan, and I think that's a really good first step to getting those kids, you know, more secure and healthier. You know, we want to do everything we can to avoid trauma. And when kids are going to school, that is sometimes one of the safest places they can. So my approach to that question primarily would be, what can the school do to make a safe space for the children, you know, provide reliable nutrition and a space to learn. So thanks for the question.
Thank you. I'd like to now ask a question that was handed to me. How would each of you approach the county budgeting process to accomplish your goals as a commissioner? Mr. Brotherton.
Yeah, that's, you know, maybe the biggest role of the county commissioner is to manage that budget that goes between, you know, all the different electeds and the appointeds. And you know, I'm learning about the budget, and it's very, you know, Byzantine in its organization. So I think strong relationships with all the departments is a good first step. Going through their budget process too. And when I'm visiting the departments, I am finding out what are your budget priorities, what are your budget issues, you know, where can we streamline this? We need to work on revenue, you know, expenditures, and we need to work on revenue. And these, I think revenue we work on with economic development primarily, and expenditures, we can make it more efficient. You know, I talked about contracts earlier, and I think if we take our contract ordinance from 1992 and bring it up to 2018 dollars for what needs to be, you know, co-signed and approved by risk management and legal, I think that we can really make our county work more efficiently. So that's how I would, you know, large issues on large strategies that I would use. You know, honing in more, you know, I was really curious about how marijuana dollars were coming in and how they were being spent. And as I looked through the budget, I saw $24,000 to $40,000, depending on the year, was all the money that was coming in, which is a lot less than the excise that this county is generating, excise tax. So I asked Vicki Kirkpatrick, the head of public health, you know, is there any other money that's coming in? How do we use this money for, you know, youth prevention and marijuana? And what she said was that most of the money comes through Kitsap County. You can't see it on the budget anywhere. It's the same way that they got a lot of their youth alcohol prevention money through the Chimicum Prevention Coalition, and it goes into the schools that way, often focusing on, you know, your brain is still growing until you're 25 is basically the tack that they're taking with that. And then a lot of the money also comes through Kitsap County into the public health, which fulfills our Planned Parenthood need for those services. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cook.
The county's problem is a revenue problem, and that is it. Working together with the different departments is necessary, and you know, they all want to get back up to before the recession, and that's a good thing because they want to serve you, and that's where they should be. But the revenue is a certain amount, and that's the way it is. One of the problems that they don't say, they will talk about the 1% increase, that's all they can increase. Well, there's a couple other ways that they can increase it too, that they don't want to talk about. One is like the first responder initiative or the tax that they put on. People said, hey, that's a good thing. We can do this. And we now get taxed. That helps the fire department, helps the police. There's another one that they really don't want you to know, and that is you have that 1%, but outside that is new starts, new building starts, new business starts. So your business starts are huge. When property tax, it increases when a business sets its business front on a piece of land. If we had more of those, we would have more revenue to spread out to the county departments. That's what we need to do. It's a revenue problem.
Thank you. I have one other written question that I'll ask, and I wanted you to know I see you, and we'll be there in just a moment. What committee assignments will you seek if elected? And what background do you have that would contribute to that role? Mr. Cooke.
I think Kate Dean and I would have to argue over Parks and Rec. She's now the current commissioner in the Parks and Rec one, and I'm on, as a citizen, the advisory board. I would like to be on the LTAC, the lodging and tax one. Also the health, as I am very concerned about our children, would be another one that I would like to be on. I think that's all off the top of my head.
Mr. Brotherton.
Thanks for the question, Siobhan. Yeah, there's 23 committees and boards that you sit on, so it's daunting. I'm looking forward to all of them, and I'm learning a lot. I think recycling is a real opportunity for us right now. You know, with China turning away our garbage that we were calling recycling, I think that we can do a lot of great things with it, and we should see it as an opportunity. So the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is something that I'm interested in. We all serve on the Board of Health, and I'm excited there for making environmental health code changes. You know, convincing the rest of the board, as I've talked about already. I think a lot of the county organizations are really critical, and the Washington State Counties and the Timber Association, I forget what it is exactly, but I'm a big fan of Mike Chapman's efforts to really push crosscut laminate and other thinning technologies of forestry in Washington State, and I want to help with that as much as I can. I want to be on all of them, honestly, but it's just you're really getting your teeth into these policy issues is where the fun of it is. I think we can make some real positive changes, and all of the committees that I'm on, I'm going to approach with, a healthy skepticism, honoring those that have come before me, and seeing how can we work together to make this county stronger. I mean, we've got the Salish behavioral health. I want to be on all of them, but I'll just take a third.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Dashel Morley, and I would like to know where the candidates stand on the current shooting range ordinance that the Board of Commissioners have put forth.
Thank you. Mr. Brotherton.
Thanks for the question, Joshua. It's a big deal, and I understand it's a complicated one. I'm not sure if I can totally unpack it all the way. I went to the Sportsman's Club Association meeting the other day as they prepare for the redo round of testimony, and I think there's kind of at least 3 different camps and more than that, and I think we can honor all of them and treat all of them like stakeholders that deserve a voice at the table. I mean, I want a robust ordinance. I think the Sportsman's Club is valuable. I don't think the ordinance is written. When I look at it, they would have to submit a permit application within 6 months, and within the year have their plan essentially done, and fixing, I think, life-threatening issues. But then it really leaves open how long they would have to complete those other improvements, the noise abatement, the baffling, whatever else the plan comes up with. So to talk from the Sportsman's Club perspective, I think it's important for them at this coming testimony to maybe try to work on definitions and try to treat them as a nonprofit shooting range if they can. I'm not sure if they're going to go for that, but I think we do need a robust ordinance. I think it's fairly well written. I think that of course, you can't grandfather in the old organization just with the the temperature of the room, if you will. But I think that there are a lot of things that we can do to make sure that Sportsman's Club stays open, and that we get a strong ordinance that, you know, protects neighbors. You know, military training is not appropriate to the environment that I came to. You know, I've been asked on Marrowstone Island. People assume that I just back anything that's marijuana related, and a lot of people objected to marijuana grows on Marrowstone Island. But I'm sympathetic to them because I live on acreage and want a little bit of elbow room and serenity myself. So I feel like we can protect the rights of all of our citizens. Thanks.
Mr.
It will be class. I just came from Planning Commission meeting, part of it, and they are going over trying to blend it in with the county code now. It will be a commercial shooting range because they charge membership. So they will have a year to get up to code. The thought that, well, it's not really a commercial, no. According to the proposal, it will be a commercial gun range. And the problem is that it's not just putting out a plan what they're going to do. It is reorganizing the whole thing so it has baffles and all sorts of things, which are good, which would be great for a new range. That's the big issue, is between, are we going to put onerous restrictions on the current range just to cover the opening of ranges? I don't think we should. I think if the county wants it done, they can help the membership pay for that with more revenue. But I do think that there needs to be some code, some reworking of the code for new coming in ranges, because I live less than 2 miles than the proposed range, 2 miles from the proposed range. I don't want military blasts going off there.
Thank you. We have another written question. Each year, the Jefferson County Commissioners seek federal help with the Port Hadlock sewer. What would you each say to the people in Washington, D.C. to get help for the sewer? Mr. Cooke.
Well, I would tell them probably pretty much what I told you people here about the people in Brennan, the people in Quilcene who are struggling, that that sewer is a stranglehold. And hopefully our representative, Mr. Kilmer, Ms. Murray, and whoever is elected at the next one will understand what our problem is, that is the stranglehold. I think that we have representatives that are concerned about their citizens, and so I think they would be, as much as they could be, willing to listen to our pleas for help.
What would I say? I guess, you know, I think the way that Commissioner Dean did it, making the journey to Washington, making it, you know, you have to have a little pomp and circumstance I think in these conversations. I've never really lobbied for federal funds before, but I've lobbied for plenty of funds, and I think what you have to do is you have to make the case for it being a good investment for the federal and for state. And I think that you don't just go to feds or go to the state, but both of them, and show how our growth is tied to Seattle's growth. It's tied to the whole system, and we need that urban growth area completed as an urban growth area to really facilitate the kind of you know, sprawl. I know sprawl is not the word I want, but you know, there are more and more people coming to Seattle every month. And I can't remember what the number is, but thousands. And they're coming out here. You can see it on the roads. We need to plan for it. And it's as important to the people of Seattle that there's places that can handle density out in the rural areas as it is in Seattle. So I think you just argue the investment needs to be made. We can't afford it the way you structure our budget right now. We're going to need state and federal help, and it's for all of our benefit. That's how I do it.
Thank you. I have another written question here for you. Do you have any ideas on how to tackle the lack of mental health facilities, for example, halfway houses and other services? Mr. Brotherton.
Yeah, it's a real critical issue, and the social safety net is tied into so many things in Jefferson County, and I think, housing maybe as much as anything, and I believe, as a good Democrat, I guess, that prevention is cheaper than the cure. The earlier that we can get a hold of someone, and that goes back to pre-K education and law enforcement and our work with Discovery Behavioral Health, and also our interlocal agreement on housing. We need to tie our services together. When we have women dealt with at the Dove House sort of out of that social safety net, it's difficult to manage everything together. So I think we need to identify our stakeholders and really create a robust network that the county is supporting. We have very few dollars for this, and we need to, we need to find what we can scale, what we can share with other counties, and we need to, get more services. I mean, right now the jail is our biggest, deals with the most mental health issues, and that is not the cheapest way to do it. It's not the most successful way to help these people. I'm a big fan of therapeutic courts and the drug courts. I think working on those models, getting people out of the jails into help, into housing. I think the earlier we can get people into housing, the more we're going to help with that. Thanks.
Yeah, mental health problems, like Greg says, right now in Jefferson County are pretty much handled in the jail, and that's not right. What I was talking to a mental health professional, I was waving signs and he walks up and, after a few barbs going back and forth about the national politics, we got down and talked about it. And he was saying, what we need is a regional house that we can use to house and help mental health. He said if we combine Kitsap, Clallam, and our counties, our resources, we could actually do something. And he was very adamant that that was what needed to happen, that if we're going to try it on our own, we're going to struggle. But combining the resources of the other two counties will help to take care of these individuals and keep them out of the jail and give them a place where they can get help.
The mic.
So this would maybe be part of the Brennan development, but I'm also thinking of other developments, like there's a area on a small road south of the Kitsap Fairgrounds. They're apparently putting in a 74-house housing development. As far as I know, that Jefferson County doesn't have any developers pay impact fees, and they might have to widen the roads or stuff like that. It's just up to the county to put the bill on their own. I wonder.
Do you have a question, please?
Well, do we have impact fees? I don't think we do. It's just a question, or if that would be an idea.
Okay, Mr. Cooke.
I'm not actually sure either. That's a great question. That I know that you're talking about the Brennan one. I know that the developer there is going to pay to have the road widened so that there's an exit and an entrance from the other side, that he has promised to do that. But I don't know that that's a general concept in Jefferson County, but I know, talking to his representative there, that they are planning, that particular developer is planning to do that. That would be an idea, that we do have road infrastructure problems that we could address with, you want to develop, you're going to make money off of this. Well, we need some help here too. So,
thank you, Mr. Brotherton.
Thanks for the question. I believe that the NPR does have, as Mr. Cooke was saying, they have to put in turn lanes and do infrastructure development. So yes, but in general, if you build a building, a commercial building, I don't believe you do in Jefferson County. I mean, I think in a lot of places too, if a developer builds a new building on a lot, they're not paying property taxes on the improvement for years and years in Seattle. So I think there's other incentives that other municipalities give that we don't give here. I don't know if that's really I don't know how that pencils out. So it's something that I'll look into, and I'll explore, other issues. My own facility down in Discovery Bay, we've often wanted a turn lane, and what we always heard was, it's not something that, it's not even easy for us to pay to put it in. It costs $500,000, but what they always tell me is, well, if someone dies, then we'll put one in, and that's not a way to do public policy, and I think we should be able to prioritize better than that. But I'll learn more about that process. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. I have another written question here. A year ago, we were deciding on Prop 1. Did you support Prop 1, and would you support another Prop 1? Mr. Brotherton.
Sure. It's a good question. Prop 1 was a very divisive political scene in Jefferson County. I know that many similar progressive taxes like Prop 1 passed throughout the state at the same time. I've talked a lot to Peninsula Housing about how Clallam County, Peninsula Housing is a quasi-governmental organization that deals with homelessness and housing in Clallam and Jefferson County. And Clallam County did kick in some money locally, which is what Prop 1 would have done, and they have state and federal money follow that, and that's just the way that it goes. Once you make the commitment with your own municipality, you're going to get those state and federal money, and that's why they're putting in, I think, 115 units in Sequim. So did I support it? Our house was divided. I'll be frank. I won't tell you which one of us voted for it and which one of us voted against it. It was divisive, but I'm in favor of progressive taxation, and I'm in favor of putting money into housing, and I think that we need to do that. It's the most critical issue that faces us. I think it was great that it was put on the ballot for the people to decide, and that is how it should be. That's the law, and I support that method of choosing on the local level. I think it's still something we have to talk about because we don't have the money yet.
Mr. Cooke.
The problem was, I think, the main problem with that particular one, there was a couple of problems, was that money was going to be distributed by a non-elected board, by an appointed board, by the Board of Commissioners. People would like a little say in, okay, this person or that person having control of their tax money. So I think that was one of the problems, and not to mention that it hurt more landowners than it did renters. The number of people that owned property tax under the poverty line were more than the renters that would have benefited from that. What we need is a supply of houses. What we need is, we could incentivize, even I read this in the paper, one of the few things Michelle Sandoval and I would agree on was we need to incentivize builders to build 1,400 to 1,800 square foot buildings that are lower prices, that are affordable. You get a lot of those buildings out there for rent or for sale, the price will go down. The price of houses to buy, the prices of houses to rent. And we also need to, I talked to a guy who owns one of the biggest trailer parks in Jefferson County. He said he wants to upgrade his trailers, but he's going to have to put in a new septic system every time. So we need to work with the environmental health people to realize what the problem is.
Would you support a more growth-friendly planning commission to support a change in zoning/density locally? And do you think private developers, as well as nonprofits, should be granted the same incentives, such as reduced regulatory fees, impact fees, zoning variances, permit fees, and low-interest loans? Mr. Cooke.
I think that what I just said was incentivizing builders so that they will be more able to build houses, so we have more houses. But basically, the only place we can do that now is near Port Townsend where the sewer is. Once we get a sewer system in Hadlock, we can build apartments. We can build houses that that will lower the cost down. So yes, I think I go and help once a week at Habitat for Humanity. It's a great program. But the only problem is they do 1 or 2 houses at a time. We need a lot of houses to happen in a short time. So yes, I think we need to incentivize both of the nonprofits and the construction people.
Mr. Brotherton.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. You know, this is, it's tricky. When I actually decided to finally throw my hat in the race on a family trip to Bali last February, and I've said this before, but, you know, it's a very similar region to our Olympic Peninsula in that it's a natural wonderland and a real touristic destination, and every hotel I stayed in had 3 more hotels going up right next to it. There's very little growth management there, and I think that growth management, I mean, if you want to go to Bali, go now. It's going to be different in 10 years. It's not going to be the same. And I think it's real critical to preserve the character of the county that drew me and my family here. So I don't want to change the zoning. I think that there are things that we can do in the comprehensive plan within some of the zones, like the neighborhood crossroads down in Discovery Bay where my stores are, and I know the Moas are trying to put a large hotel there that's a little outside the footprint, and they could do it with a conditional use permit, but that conditional use permit pretty much precludes them getting financing. So I think those are the areas that we look and see, can we make adjustments to the footprint size? I think there are small changes that we can make in the comprehensive plan without upzoning, without turning 5-acre parcels into 1-acre parcels. We don't want to just create sprawl. I said it accidentally earlier because it's a bad word, and I'm not looking for it either. I want to preserve that rural character, and I think we've done a real good job of doing that so far, and I want to work with those efforts. I still think that we can make it easier to build, that our permit process is the biggest impediment to people building houses and businesses in Jefferson County. I think we streamline that. The Department of Community Development is already making great inroads with their new software where you'll be able to apply for a permit from the couch at home with your slippers on. People in the West End can apply for permits. I mean, I think it's really going to add accessibility, which is another reason, of course, that we need broadband internet throughout the county. So I'll stop there.
Thank you.
I've worked on economic development in this community for about 15 years and have definite feelings about it. My personal opinion is I think I don't want to live in the cheapest house in the Olympic Peninsula. I want a livable wage, and I think the focus needs to be on wages, not our cost of housing. So I have experience that while we have tremendous assets in our community, one of the things we lack is collaboration. We have Glen Cove. 10 years ago, we said we would develop it. We've had 6 businesses close for lack of collaboration with the county and the city. The county and city won't come to meetings together. I don't know how many of you have gone to talk to the mill, but every Wednesday, I think the mill's going to announce their closing, and that means dire impacts on our hospital and ability to provide health care. So I want to hear, some of these meetings are best when we get to know you personally, because the issues that you're running on today won't be the issues 2 or 3 years from now. I want to know how you make decisions, what your leadership style is, and what 2 or 3 steps you would take to get greater city, county, port, and PUD collaboration.
Thank you. Mr. Brotherton.
Thanks for the question. Good question. And, you know, collaboration is what it's all about. And the way that I approach most problems really goes back to my education at Evergreen, which is based on an interdisciplinary model of working through in seminars and working to consensus. You know, and I think our county commissioners do that really well. I know that some people complain about unanimous votes, but a unanimous vote doesn't mean that everyone has the same opinion, but it means that they're working through problems together and working to solutions. And I think I've been at some of the interlocal agreement meetings, and there is a tension that exists between the city and the county that's undeniable. And I hope to bridge that. You know, I think that, like talking about the Glen Cove, and I think the real issue was bringing the city sewer out to Glen Cove to really bolster the infrastructure out there. And the reason they couldn't do it, it comes down to just fighting over the pie. You know, I mean, of course, there's an O&M cost that would go to the city if they brought their sewer in, and of course, the city would maybe want to annex Glen Cove and bring it into the city. But you just have to sit down and have the tough conversations, stay focused on your goal, and continue talking until you can find a solution that works for everyone. You know, I mean, no one's absolutely happy after a good deal, but everyone should feel like they got what they needed. And I think that we can do that with the city. I think we all have the best interests of the residents of the county at heart. And I've always looked at problems as opportunities. And with any group of people, I think that I can work through the problem. I'm confident that I'll give it my best shot, and I won't give up. So there's my plan.
Thank you, Mr. Cooke.
It took the city saying they were going to cut off the interlocal agreement with the county to get the county commissioners to realize we need to talk to them. We need to go into negotiations with them to get this interlocal, or we're going to start losing funding for affordable housing and the homeless. That really isn't right. They should be working together as a county. There has to be a interlocal agreement for the Growth Management Act too. That should have been going all along. What I do is I listen to people. A lot of times there are frictions between people and organizations that they just want to be heard. And that's the way I listen to people. I sort out what is good and what is not as good, and I come up with solid, common sense solutions. And that can be done with the city, to listen to them. They have their concerns, obviously, but you know, the county can't give them everything they want, but to listen to them and meet with them. And one of the big issues in that was the city wanted to allow people to have open public comment at their meetings. And the county commissioners were like, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. Why don't you do that? That's part of the problem, is communication. And I think that as a quiet leader, that's what I do. I listen.
Thank you.
Where do you stand on Initiative 1639, and do you believe the initiative will inhibit the ability of residents of Jefferson County to defend themselves?
Thank you, Mr. Cooke.
When I was in 9th grade, I was shot in the head with a .22. You can't see it from this side, but you can surely see where they took it out in the back. I was with my brother, and we were plinking. Those of you that don't live in the county don't know what that is. We were shooting out in our field into a bank. I was up on the hay with binoculars seeing where it was hitting because there was dust flying. My brother touched the electric fence. It shocked him. He dropped the gun, and it went off, and it hit me. My parents were Christmas shopping. My parents, under this initiative, would be charged with a Class C felony because the gun wasn't locked up. My brother would be charged because he was underage and didn't have and had this gun. A year later for Christmas, my parents bought me, look out, a semi-automatic .22. I am against this, along with all the police officer unions, police officer organizations. I think that we do need some restrictions on certain things, but this is not the way to do it. So I'm against 1639.
Mr. Brotherton.
Yeah, it's not really county business too much, but in general, I'll tell you one story. I live in the country as well, and I went and picked my daughter up at a friend's house where she was playing with an AR-15 that was the 11-year-old brothers, the older brothers. And that, to me, was unacceptable, and she doesn't go over there anymore. So I support background checks, being 21 to buy a semi-automatic weapon. I'm not sure the permutations of the crimes that would be charged. I'm not, I guess, deeply familiar with it, but in general, I support keeping guns out of the hands of people that keeping some guns out of the hands of people that are going to be dangerous with them. And I think that we need to, we license cars, we license all sorts of things, and I think that I'm generally in favor of it.
I'm going to try and figure out how to phrase this because it's kind of related to this, but it's different. This gun issue is being treated as if it were a public health issue. In that light, it's couched as if gun ownership were a disease vector, basically treating gun owners as if they were the carriers of some sort of a communicable disease. I resist that. And my biggest objection with 1639 is the fact that by putting focus on the firearms, it fails to recognize the true problem, which is problems of mental health, problems of malice of heart, or depression or illness. So what can we do, particularly with school age, since this is a local thing, to usurp that thought process and divert attention back from the gun to the individuals.
Thank you.
So we can really deal with the problem.
Thank you. Mr. Brotherton.
Yeah, I think I get the question. There's a couple things we should do. I think, my daughter took archery classes this summer, and I think that we should encourage kids to take, responsible use of weapons. I think that's a big part, and it's a duty of the Sportsman's Club that I think they're really comporting very well. I agree. There's a lot of mental health issues that are tied in with gun violence, and to me, I still think the strongest way to avoid those is to keep guns out of the hands of those that might cause violence with them. So I think that it doesn't excuse us from dealing with the myriad of substance and mental health issues that we have. And I don't think anyone is trying to treat guns like a virus, but there is an unmistakable correlation between guns and gun violence. And so to not deal with that issue is to ignore a big part of the problem. And if you look at the amount of guns we have and the amount of guns other countries have, you can instantly see the correlation in violence. You just can do more damage with a weapon, with a gun. So I think there's a real conflation of people saying, "Oh, you want gun control? That means you're trying to take away my guns." And I think that we need to have open conversations where we're not just taking our sides and digging in to really work to some sane solutions that keep guns in the hands of people that are going to use them safely, that protects our society, that protects the health and safety of our community. And I think that's what this shooting range, commercial shooting range ordinance is doing, and I support the effort. It's still a work in progress, and I think the public comment period is critical to getting it right for people. I don't know. I don't have the answers to these questions. What I do know is that I've had my liberties questioned, and I wouldn't question the liberties of residents in Jefferson County. I would work hard for those liberties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cooke.
I'm from a different generation, and like I said, I grew up in the country. As long as we had our vehicles locked, during hunting season, you might see that was the best excuse ever. Dad, there was a deer, ran across the road, I got it. That was the best excuse ever to miss school, to skip school. We took our guns to school during hunting season all the time. Like Jody said, a lot of it is mental issues. We didn't have gun violence then. We need to help kids. The Facebook, all those things, those are causing some serious problems that need to be addressed with kids. And you do that with your counselor. You do that with programs that reach out to kids and communicate their worth. And that it's not as a way to solve problems. Communication is the way to solve problems, and that can be helped with counselors in schools. And like I said, with stuff like Rachel's Club or Rachel's Group or something like that, is a great way to not only get kids to communicate, but help their self-esteem, help them realize they are worthy, they are worth something, and that their friends, their people they go to school with are also worth keeping around. Thank you.
Thank you. And that will wrap up our questions for this evening. I'd like to invite the candidates to each do a closing statement. Because Mr. Brotherton went first in the opening statement, I'd like to invite you, Mr. Cooke, to go first now.
I have a bachelor's degree in agriculture. Like I said, I grew up in the country. We lived on a farm. We had a river running through our farm. It was awesome. We could go fishing, we could go hunting. So I know country life. My wife grew up also in the country outside a really small town. We know country. We aren't people from the east side coming in to help these backwards people learn how to live. We are from the country. We live out in the country. That's why we moved to Jefferson County, to get back to country. It is really important to me to be a voice for those people that are out there, our neighbors, our friends. And I just think that we need that voice, that different voice that will bring a broader perspective. So instead of just having these two options here, we have 5 options. We have different ways to think of people. I would probably get voted down every time two votes to 1, but that's okay. At least that voice is there, that voice for the 3rd district. My leadership is I am a quiet leader. I listen to people. That is hugely important in my life, that I will listen to people. I met with somebody that was an ardent person that was going to be affected by the proposed gun range. Her and I came to the middle. That's what we need. People that can discuss. We had the board that was appointed by the county commissioners that were, you had the ones that were for the new regulations, you had the ones that were against it. But there was nobody in the middle. That's what we need. We need people in the middle. And I would be one of those people in the middle. So I'm asking for your vote just to be that voice, that other voice out there. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brotherton.
Thanks again. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate all your time and the questions. To me, obviously, we're trying to earn your vote for the election. Ballots mailed out today, so the time is upon us. It's the sprint to the finish. And I want to talk a little bit about why I think that you should choose me as your next county commissioner. First is my experience. You know, I have policy experience. I have budget experience on the Quilcene School Board. You know, I've been through it. I've formed budgets and had to appeal to investors as a private businessman as well. You know, I've been a manager. I've successfully started 4 businesses that are still all thriving in South County. There's not a lot of people that have done that recently, and I think that I understand the formula that we need to make it easier for other people. I think there's a lot of opportunities in the county that we can enable, and I also, you know, I speak to my personal experience too. I didn't grow up in the country. I grew up in the suburbs, and I lived in the city, and I lived in South Korea for a couple years teaching English. I've lived all over. I've been the other by my own choice, and I have the empathy for all of the residents of the county. That even if we don't start at the same place, I'm going to listen. I'm going to work. I want to represent all of the residents of Jefferson County, and I think that's one of the reasons I have the endorsements of all the sitting county commissioners of Derek Kilmer, who I was expected here tonight. I came in the full Kilmer myself just to match him. But, you know, Derek Kilmer and Mike Chapman and Steve Theringer, these are supporters of me, not because we're good friends, but because I think they can see that I have the energy and the experience to really get things done in the county. And that's what I hope to do, is to work with all the different facets of the county, you know, from the Wazoo extension to the solid waste to the noxious weeds boards. I've been talking to all of them, and I feel like I have some real good ideas that can help our county work better, and I'm asking for your help to do it and your input on how to do it. And, you know, I've got the energy. You know, well, in 2017, I won Young Professional of the Year in Jefferson County, and my joke on that is only in Jefferson County am I considered young, but I'll take it, you know, and I feel like that I understand what the people that are coming to this county are looking for, and I think that I can communicate with them, and the programs that I am talking about are programs that I have heard from the people that are coming, that have been construction workers in the county for years, that are new farmers coming to the county. These are the people that I'm talking to and learning ideas from. I mean, you know, you can't copyright an idea, and there's a lot of great ideas out there, and I think if we're nimble and responsive, if we work on the infrastructure as we can, and also work on decentralizing our infrastructure, work on building a robust internet with the PUD, and work on enabling entrepreneurs to create wireless internet service providers with the fiber the backbone that we already have, that we're kind of taking care of both sides. So I hope to earn your vote on this ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having me. Leading Women Voters.
Everyone, thank you. Yeah, please help me thank the candidates. Everyone in this room has honored our democracy with respect this evening, and I'm very grateful for your time. Thank you for everyone who put it together. Again, if you're so inclined to help support these kinds of projects, there's a donation jar in the back. Thank you, and have a fantastic night. Thank you.